On the front is expanding to series ownership. The Outlaw late models add more cash, and we've got sprint car ride news from Kerry, Madsen, and Scotty Thiel. Let's go. It's Thursday, December 8th. I'm Justin Fiedler. This is Dirt Tracker Daily. The PRI show in Indianapolis is off and running this morning, and we've already had several schedules released. We've had a few other news items as well. We'll get into some of it today, and if there's something bigger that I don't talk about today, we'll definitely add it to tomorrow's show. Some of the schedules and things we'll get into tomorrow. If you aren't aware of it, PRI is the big motorsports trade show that happens every year in December. It used to be a place where a ton of news items for the next year broke, but that's kind of slowed down a little bit in recent years. There'll still be some notable things to mention, though, and it's a good week to get some deals done for companies and series and tracks and race teams. So still a lot of good stuff happening at PRI, even though it's not quite the big breaking news weekend that it used to be. Looking back at yesterday's Daily Show about the money around the top World of Outlaws teams, the industry response was pretty good. I had a few reach out about my numbers, and it sounds like the only thing I was really low on was the engine costs. Probably a few more rebuilds plus a couple purchased through the year would push my number up into the low six figures. David Gravel also weighed in on Twitter saying that it was $1 million to run a team, which could easily be true on the budget I presented if you're buying a few extra cars and a few extra engines a season. The other thing that got brought up in a bunch of my comments was where merchandise plays into all of this. And that's not something I'm going to be privy to. I don't know how many drivers will go in depth about that. Most merch at an Outlaw show is handled through the drivers and not the teams themselves. So unless some sort of revenue split is in play, I don't know how much the team owners are actually getting from merch sales. If a driver owns their own team, like, if we're going to talk about somebody like Rico Abreu, then yes, merch will affect the team's income. But for higher drivers like Sheldon Haudenschild or Donnie Schatz, I'm not aware of how much TSR or Stenhouse Jr. Marshall Racing benefit from that. We'll definitely do a late model version of yesterday's show at some point in the future. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do so. We ran through and did a bunch of numbers and a bunch of kind of breakdown about what it costs to be a full-time World of Outlaws team in a season. What engines, fuel, crew guy salaries, all of that type of stuff costs. So check that out from yesterday if you haven't done so already. One of the news items that is coming out of PRI this weekend and a schedule we should hopefully see soon is for the new Southeastern Late Model Series being planned by Hunt the Front. There have been rumblings about this for a little while now, and the YouTube channel creators actually hinted at it not long ago via an episode of their podcast on Patreon. The joiners started the Hunt the Front YouTube channel around their dirt late model team back in 2019 and have since grown it into nearly 125,000 subscribers, and they've done 45 million views. And they've parlayed that success into a Patreon account with over 1,500 supporters. They've got a sizable merch business, and they've done some race promoting the previous 2 years. And they'll now use their influence and experience on this late model tour that, according to a piece from Dirt on Dirt, should have at least 15 races and pay the series champion $20,000 from a total $50,000 point fund. Races are expected at tracks like Alltech, Magnolia Motor Speedway, and a return to Deep South Speedway, which hosted their Southern Showcase a few weeks ago. Joshua Joyner is in Indy for the weekend. We should be hearing more confirmed details here very soon. If you want to know more about the business of Hunt the Front, check out the past conversations episode I did with Joshua. That was back in August. We talked about a lot of what goes on behind the scenes and their foray into race promoting, which kind of foreshadowed this move a little bit towards the series. Joshua also did a few videos on his own YouTube channel around that Deep South weekend, sharing his experiences as a race promoter. And I'll link all of that below in the video description if you want to check any of those videos out. Also on the subject of late model tours, the World of Outlaws Late Model Series announced their point fund for 2023 and their new Winner's Circle program. The total point fund has been bumped to $780,000, with the champion earning $150,000 of that. That's a $25,000 bump over last year. The Winner's Circle program kicks in an extra $2,500 a month for each of the top 12 full-time drivers from February through November, which equates to an extra $25,000 for the season. And this is all in addition to the $3 million in purse money that's available through the 53 race schedule next year. As we wait for things to resolve themselves on the sprint car side, I'm wondering if this maybe isn't a preview of what's to come for the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, maybe some sort of additional guaranteed money per month like this Winner's Circle program is for the late model teams. We could know something very soon on that front. But as for the full-time World of Outlaws late model teams, we know right now that Tanner English is in for next year with Viper, and the new pairing of Max Blair and Boom Briggs are returning. Also, Peyton Freeman and the GR Smith team will join the series full-time starting at Volusia in January. That got announced this morning as well. Back on Tuesday, we mentioned that Bill Balog was partnering with Aussie Motorsports for 2023, and that meant that things were uncertain for Scotty Thiel. But as of yesterday, we know where Thiel is landing for next season. He's going to go join Pete Grove and Premier Motorsports to run full-time with the All-Star Circuit of Champions. They're going to start their year in Georgia and Florida in February. Thiel had 4 IRA wins a year ago, plus he made 11 starts with the All-Stars and 13 appearances with the Outlaws. He ran third with the All-Stars at Plymouth in May and had Outlaw top 10s at Cedar Lake and Wilmot. I believe Thiel is the first kind of super public confirmed All-Star regular for next season, but I think that group should look pretty similar for 2023 as it did for 2022, probably sans Tyler Courtney. One other sprint car driver and team move for you. Guy Forbrook is hiring Kerry Madsen for next season. Madsen had been with Roth Motorsports in 2022, helping to develop that 410 engine for Toyota, but was sort of quietly dropped after the late season NARC weekend at Hanford. Tim Kading ended up driving that 83 car for the final few races of the season, with Madsen then on the shelf. For 2023, Forbrook and Madsen will run probably 40 races around the Midwest. That's what he told Jeremy Elliott anyway, including some weekly shows at Huset's and Knoxville, plus plenty of World of Outlaws shows when they come through the area as well. This is a reunion for these two, as Forbrook was the crew chief on the Big Game 2 car when Madsen drove it a few years back. I think this could be a really potent combination for that Midwest region, and I think we'll definitely see the Madman back in victory lane next season. Before we shut it down, a quick Tulsa shootout update. I know we've been talking about Chili Bowl entries a lot, but the shootout has crossed 1,000 entries itself, with still a few weeks to go until that event in the Expo Center. A lot of the usual suspects are going to be on that list, but one notable entry is the return of Kyle Busch and his son Brexton. Kyle will compete in both winged and non-wing outlaw, while Brexton will be back in a junior sprint. Tulsa shootout runs December 27th through the 31st. All right, tomorrow's show, I think we'll go over a bunch of the news that's dropped today at PRI that includes the schedules for USAC. There's a couple of surprising things on that USAC schedule. The Extreme Outlaw Midgets dropped a 34-race slate. The Summer Nationals is back to basically just a month and a bunch more. We'll see what else kind of percolates out here over the next 24 hours. The only things on the streaming schedule for today are Flow Racing 24/7 and Dirt Vision Now. To see that full daily streaming schedule with links to watch, visit dirttracker.com/watch tonight. That's it for the show today. Have a good Thursday. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you don't do so already. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back here tomorrow for more Dirt Tracker Daily.